Greetings, everyone. This is Rock and Roll Spot Convention with the weekly comic book roundup. And yes, it's a day later than usual, as I mentioned last week in our Building the Team video. That is due to the fact that my work schedule has me going into work at a rather early hour today. So, yeah. So these are coming out a day late. And the same thing's going to happen at the very least next week. If it continues, I'll continue to, pass that along to all you guys. Anywho, we've already looked at this week's X-Men books and Empire tie-ins, so let's move on to the remainder of this week's haul. Our Spider-Man related titles, something from Boom Studios, and our DC books. Kicking things off with Spider-Man The Black Cat Strikes, number 5. Now, where we left off in number 4, it was months after the events of issue 3, wherein it appeared the Black Cat had been killed in an explosion set by Hammerhead. And in the months that had followed, Silver Sable and Spider-Man had been working together to try and take down Hammerhead. But it was not easy. However, as the two fought Hammerhead on Silver Sable's fighter jet, they received an unexpected assist from none other than the Black Cat, Hale Hardy. Well, Felicia Hardy, but alive. So the issue begins with the jet crashing. Hammerhead has survived the crash, as has Black Cat, Spider-Man, and Silver Sable. Black Cat has spirited Spidey away to safety, complaining he is a bit heavy, and asks how he's able to carry people like that all the time. And he kind of, reminds her he does have the proportionate strength of a spider. But Felicia tells Spidey he's been going about fighting Hammerhead the wrong way, and gives him a thumb drive telling him everything on it, or what's on it is everything he needs to know to beat Hammerhead. As she leaves him with an additional hint. His head's not as strong as everyone thinks. 2 weeks later, Spidey and Silver Sable have been going over the information on the thumb drive and working on a plan to take down Hammerhead. About 5 seconds, and they came up with a plan about 5 seconds before Hammerhead attacked Silver Sable's private aircraft carrier. So, apparently, his skull, the metal plate in his skull is carbon fiber. It's carbon steel, which is extremely susceptible to heat. But the plan starts to work, and eventually they do somewhat bring him down, while Black Cat watches from a distance. And Black Cat promptly steals a police car. Spidey gives chase, slides into the car. The car does end up crashing, however, and the cops show up. Felicia has, of course, gotten away, disguised as one of New York's finest. She breaks into NYPD and appropriates something from the evidence locker, and then goes to the Green Anchor container terminal. Turns out that now, since Hammerhead's behind bars, she now has the combined wealth of all 5 Magia families, as well as quite a bit of weaponry. However, MJ catches her in the act, having figured out where she was going. And she does ask, apparently we find out that what was stolen from the evidence lockup was a Doc Ock claw. So, MJ and Black Cat have their little chat. But when the cops arrive, Black Cat attempts to make her escape, only to be webbed to a container wall by Spider-Man. Him and MJ kiss. Black Cat watches as she's being led away by the cops and says it's adorable. And that is where the series ends. Next up, we've got Ravencroft, number 5. Also a concluding issue. So, where we left off, the Unwanted had taken over Ravencroft Asylum. Norman Osborn suggested that as the Unwanted were torturing John Jameson to find the location of Dr. Jonas Ravencroft's journal, Norman Osborn suggested that they actually torture Misty Knight instead, because that might actually get him to talk. However, and while this is true, it was a ruse, and Osborn used it to help Misty escape. Misty ran from the Unwanted and ran into another inmate, the Punisher. So the issue begins. Misty and the Punisher are wading through the Unwanted with shooting the hell out of them. And it turns out that Misty's cybernetic hand doesn't just have an Iron Fist-esque upgrade, but also retractable claws now, too. 3. And, well, Punisher, always in the market for new ways, new and better ways to punish, does ask where she got said upgrades, because, well, however, it turns out it's top secret. She says it's top secret. And explains that just because they're fighting off mutated vampire leftovers doesn't mean they're in each other's sewing circles. Anywho, back with John Jameson, Norman Osborn, and Bud, a former member of the Howling Commandos. The torch was not going well, and in fact, the self-destruct device is ticking away. Less than an hour to go. So some of his people, some of the Unwanted bring in Dr. Kafka and D-Man. And Jameson finally gives in and explains he doesn't know where the journal is. It disappeared. However, as he's explaining, Bud backhands him. We get back to Frank and Misty, and it appears they're being overrun when there's an explosion, as the cavalry has arrived in the form of Mayor Fisk, as well as 3 of his staff members. Roderick Kingsley, the Hobgoblin, Matt Gargan, the Scorpion, and Tony Masters, Taskmaster. Misty is loath to work with Fisk, but whereas Frank is just kind of like, hey, you're all you guys are here all at once? Cool. Sure, I got enough bullets. Then I'm gonna go down fighting. But Misty also does make both Misty and Fisk make the common enemy argument, and it works. And Fisk and his men begin to retake the Fisk and his men as well as Misty and Punisher begin retaking the asylum. Bud is distracted, basically, commanding the unwanted. So Osborn begins to insult him. Oh, you're afraid to become Man-Wolf because Carnage made him a killer. Wah! I can't change because I'm afraid I'll hurt people. Wah! And Osborn told him to grow up and be a man. He was under Carnage's control, but you don't see Osborn whining about it. Osborn then spits on John, saying that John makes him sick. And that was just what John needed to turn into the Man-Wolf and attack Bud rather viciously. John deactivates the self-destruct and knocks out Norman. A week later, Mayor Fisk announces, a change in staff at the for Ravencroft, and a new warden, John Jameson. His staff includes Dr. Kafka, Donald Dunphy, T-Man, and Misty Knight. At the same time, Norman Osborn is talking with a group of shadowy benefactors. Apparently, the journal didn't disappear. Osborn stole it for said benefactors. We also discover what's going on with Dr. Kafka. She's a leftover clone from the New You Technologies fiasco and Osborn discovered the clone in one of Professor Miles Warren's old labs. Her tests were faked, so, to make John believe that Kafka was the real deal. And now she's the chief scientist for the Institute. And the unwanted are once again being experimented upon. We also learn that the Punisher managed, during the Insanity, the Punisher did make good on escape. And wounded Osborn on his way out. The shadowy benefactors aren't entirely happy that the Punisher escaped, as they could have had a use for him. And we learn that the group that Osborn is talking to is called Janus. The particular people he's talking to are G.W. Bridge, former S.H.I.E.L.D. agent. Before that, former mercenary from the original six-pack. Contessa Valentina Allegra de Fontaine, also former S.H.I.E.L.D. agent, and I think also former Hydra operative. James McDonald Hudson of Alpha Flight. Malcolm Colcord of Weapon X. Monica Rappaccini, currently AIM. And Madame Viper, also formerly Hydra. But they're satisfied. They got the journal in their possession, and no one at the Institute realizes the true power the book represents. And through Jameson and his new position, Janus now has the ability to access Ravencroft's assets. And we finish with two Janus operatives walking into where the unwanted were being kept. One of them shoots the other, pulls off his glove, which has a spiral tattooed on it, which he then sticks on a holds the hand against a spiral in the wall, explaining when our Lord Null arrives, that he would really like for Cortland Cassidy to be there to greet him. It turns out there's a shrine to Cortland Cassidy. And a shrine, marker, whatever. Here lies Cortland Cassidy. May Null have mercy on his soul. The last page stating that Cortland Cassidy will return. That is where the issue ends. And, in fact, the Ravencroft series. Which brings us to Web of Venom, Wraith. So, quick version of Wraith. Cosmic Gunslinger type. Heavily modified Kree. The issue begins in Mark's Hots, a black site Kree prison facility, planetoid near the Benazar Rift. Wraith shows up, rescues a woman who's being mugged, and then, sends her off to help. Turns out he used to be the Kree Zakdel, and his father, Simdel, was a scientist. He turned the world that they're on into a paradise. And the Kree made him suffer for it. The old city was burned when the Death Trees took it over, and they then built the current city on top of it. So, Wraith ends up in one of his... However, it turns out his father's lab still exists underneath the city, so that's where Wraith's heading. But he was given data with two sets of coordinates, including this one, for helping Star-Lord. Or not Star-Lord, Star Fox. Eros, the brother of Thanos. He remembers what his father was doing. His father wanted to banish the darkness. He created an energy source that would bring light to the galaxy. Light brought light to the world, and in doing so, darkness fell on him and his family. Then he was experimented by the Exelon, and drawn on the wall is a massive spiral. And the center is a circle with three sets of two smaller circles surrounding it. So he goes to the next location, Clintar, planet of the symbiotes, the cage of Null. As he makes planetfall, he realizes the planet's alive and he can feel the planet's hunger. Apparently, what he was experimented upon with, the Exelon, is related to the Clintar. And there's memories, not his own, that he can feel. Memories involving someone named Eddie Brock. And suddenly, everything goes crazy. Symbiotes erupt from the planet. Null rises. And without breaking a sweat, basically smacks Wraith aside, pulling the Exelon off of him. And kicking Zakdel into the darkness. He still has his teleporter. As he tumbles into space, there's a sudden bright light. And it includes the symbol that his father drew in the center of the spiral. So he uses the light washes over him. He uses the teleporter to go to Earth, arriving in New York City, in the middle of the street, in front of Eddie and Dylan Brock. And apparently, Dylan is, well, something of a black sheep in the family, as he likes ketchup on his hot dogs. Hey, Each their own. I like ketchup on mine too, but well, ketchup and mustard. Maybe some chili too. But Wraith arrives, briefly materializes long enough to explain that there is an opposite to Null, a god of light. And as he tells Eddie this, well, the teleporter has officially stopped working properly, and he never fully forms, and simply vanishes. That is where the issue ends. However, the God of Light symbol is also seemingly burned into the street in front of Eddie. Which brings us to Star, number 5. Where we left off, Star and Captain Marvel were facing off against the Black Order. And Black Swan from Black Order had given Star something she could potentially use. We begin some time ago on a spaceship. The Black Order are trying to figure out what to do. They have decided, after the events of Donny Cates' first arc on Guardians of the Galaxy, that the next thing they do will be for them, not because Thanos, Hela, the Grandmaster, who the hell ever wants them to do something. But Black Swan has decided that they go to Earth. Of course, the major problem that the rest of them see is, all the superheroes they've ever fought all live there. But Black Swan basically, with our technology, if we keep our heads down, they'll never know we're there. Which is actually a good point. Kind of a don't start none, won't be none. And eventually, everyone agrees. Corvus Glaive figures he needs to think about things, and so. But Proxima convinces him. However, now, Corvus is charged in and is sucked into the device that Black Swan gave Star. Proxima orders the Black Order to tear Captain Marvel and Star apart when Scarlet Witch shows up. But apparently she has ideas on what to do, but she's pretty sure that Scarlet Witch and Captain Marvel won't listen to her. So she creates a hologram, docks the Black Swan, and then makes herself visible to the rest of the Black Order, and they make a deal. Basically, Star will give them back Corvus Glaive, but she gets to walk, and they leave her alone. The terms are acceptable. We have a brief flashback showing that apparently Riley was an abused child, but then she snaps out of her flashback and truly lets the power in. No, Ripley, not Riley. Ripley. And the power exuding from her is enough to at least briefly take down both Scarlet Witch and Captain Marvel. And yeah, they really don't stand a chance against her. And so Ripley sends them away. Then appears the Black Order, gives them the item was given to her by Black Swan, who explains that okay, she made a plan on her own, and yes, Corvus got stuck in the little thingy, but that wasn't the plan. But Ripley explains all she wants is her freedom, for her to get out of her way. About 17 minutes later, Captain Marvel and Scarlet Witch show back up. Apparently, Ripley sent them to Mars. So she's using the reality stone to hide her identity and just walk among everyone. As she continues to walk, a building explodes behind her, and that is the end, where the issue and the series end. Not sure what Marvel's plan is when it comes to Star or really any of the current holders of the Infinity Gauntlet or Infinity Stones. Initially, this year's batch of annuals were supposed to deal with that, but well, current events kind of postponed those. Moving on to Something is Killing the Children, number 10. Where we left off, well, the creature in the woods, its children fed on a few more, right in front of Tommy, just as the cops showed up. Meanwhile, the families of the victims they found in the cave are being pulled into the school gym individually to identify the remains. Tommy's mother is called in. Back with Tommy and the sheriff, he's trying to explain that, he didn't do it. Yes, he's covered in blood, but he didn't do it. When Aaron Slaughter shows up, basically trying to take care, send the sheriff away, but he explained he's there to take care of the problem that Erica Slaughter created. Tommy. Then the sheriff runs into Erica and explains that, Aaron's there, 3 more dead bodies, Tommy Mahoney, and so Erica asked him to take her where they found Tommy. But also get James and all the children deep in the school as possible. Keep them safe. So they arrive, and Aaron is working on injecting, or on, basically hitting Tommy with a sedative before killing him with his sword cane. Erica shows up. Her and Aaron fight it out. Erica wins. And it's kind of like, there's, yes, okay, I get it. Maybe I did, but there's something else. There's a bigger problem than Tommy at the moment. At the school, however, the babies have arrived. And Tommy can see what's coming. As another little girl is ripped in half in front of everyone. And so James sells a corner to, try and get, hollers for everyone to get inside the gym. Aaron and Erica Aaron volunteers to take care of the creatures on his own, while Erica makes sure everyone's safe. And with that, Aaron is promptly ripped apart, which is where the issue ends. Which brings us to Dark Knight's Death Metal, Trinity Crisis. So, Wonder Woman has got her superhero army, and they're launching their plan. We begin with a discussion of the word crisis, showing art from, interpretations of events from the 3 previous DC Crisis events: Crisis on Infinite Earths, Infinite Crisis, and Final Crisis. And the whole thing's everything is planned. The plan is explained. a three-pronged assault. Batman, Superman, and Wonder Woman will infiltrate Castle Bat while Jarro cloaks them from detection and enter the dark through a portal inside. Find the three crisis worlds and capture enough their energy by the Alfred boxes that Darkfather created. Harley, Swamp Thing, and Jonah Hex will be accompanying them. And Mr. Miracle has created a psychic amplifier that's shaped like a bit like a jar to help Jarro. Next part of the plan. Martian Manhunter and Hawkgirl take a team to destroy Perpetua's throne so they can reroute the energy to Wally when the time comes. John is stored in the lanterns so then to take out the antennae remaining Earths out in the multiverse. Everyone else is to wait on Themyscira because that's where the battle's going to be. Castle Bat is being guarded by Warbat, a combination of Mongol and Batman, Grim Knight, imagine the Punisher as Batman, Bat-Mazo, Batman plus a Mazo, and Mindhunter, Martian Manhunter and Batman combined. Well, they can't figure out what they're going to do. There's no way to get in there, and there's also tripwires all over the place. Swamp Thing absorbs the entirety of the green. The green, it turns out, is split up into multiple people so they can't be killed. But he absorbs all of it himself and basically digs a tunnel for them to get, for the rest of the team to get in through. And Jarro gets an idea of what's going on. The Batman Who Laughs has become something much worse, and he's found Wally. And he's chasing Wally and gaining. It's most likely a reference to the upcoming death metal, speed metal tie-in. Hex and Harley aren't entirely... Well, Harley's not entirely keen on the fact that she's there because, figuring that they're the expendable. They're expendable. Her and Hex are expendable. Keep the heavy hitters safe on Paradise Island until the real fight starts. And she even has, that's what she'd do. But Jonah tells her that he lived through one of these wars of the soul, and he chose not to fight with evil, but he didn't do near enough to fight for good, which isn't forgivable. But he tells Harley that she's here the first time around, and she's doing okay in his book. And so she gives him a little kiss on the cheek, and well, he does kind of slip her over the tongue, but he does when she calls him on it. He does state that he doesn't have a cheek on. Ain't nothing else to kiss. So fair enough. As our heroes continue through the tunnel, however, we get more Dark Knights. Chiroptor, the Pearl, Black Monday, Cull, and Arc. Chiroptor is a combination of oh god, what was his name? Chemo and Batman. Arc seems to be a combination of Scarecrow and Batman, as well as with bits and pieces from everyone else from Arkham. Not sure what the Pearl is. The Pearl is off the top of my head. Black Monday is Bat Solomon Grundy, and Cull, we learn, is the daughter of Batman and Wonder Woman. Arc attacks Harley with clay Joker cards, which she throws back at him while Hex fires. Oh, that's the Pearl. Martha Wayne. But they prevail and make their way further through. And they come upon Barbatos. Batman says, all of this is your fault, dude. You brought Batman Who Laughs from the darkness in the first place. But so the three go on and continue on. However, their backup is found by the Robin King, who claims he's got something special for each of them. Our heroes then enter each take an offered box and use it to enter a specific crisis world, while the Robin King fights Harley, Hex, and Swamp Thing. Uses an R-shaped shuriken on Swamp Thing, which is coated in the blood of the Anti-Arcane with a little bit of Abby's in there too. It is very painful to Swamp Thing. Against Harley, he pulls out a mallet. Apparently, on his Earth, Harley caught on to him right off the bat. And apparently, as he explains, that his blood's on the mallet too, right underneath hers. As for Hex, he shoots him. The bullet, however, is loaded with something called a debrider. It eats necrotic tissue, usually from the extremities inward. As he dissipates, he reminds Harley, expendable or not, everything matters. Swamp Thing manages to get Harley and Jarro to safety, though the Robin King is following. Back with the Trinity, each one ends up at a different crisis. Batman cries on Infinite Earths, and he's promptly attacked because he's matter. He's asking where the Anti-Monitor is, and a child appears in front of him and asks, "Don't you recognize me?" Final crisis. Superman arrives and is attacked by an Omega-infused Justice League. The Infinite Crisis. Wonder Woman must deal with none other than Superboy Prime, who explains just what's been done. The Batman Who Laughs sent the Anti-Monitor, Prime, and Darkseid to change those three crisis worlds, make new endings for the stories. They've shaped them into a new history, the right history, the one that should have happened. The one where the heroes lost. And that is where the issue ends. Which brings us to our final book of the week, Joker, Harley, Criminal Sanity, number 5. Where we left off, Harley met the Joker killer. Apparently he's read her profile, and he thinks it's interesting. He'd like to discuss it, but first he wants Harley to leave her things at the door. Got a knife, so he zip-tied her to a chair. She asked him what he found interesting about it. He explains that she recognized him as he's not a lowlife. He killed her for sexual gratification. He's an artist trying to create something exceptional. He does ask why she called him eccentric, and she figures, appeal to his narcissism. He's original, a gifted artist, and the greatest artists in history were considered eccentric. Their talk continues, and it turns out she had a knife hidden in her sleeve as well. But he leaves, and at Gotham Electric and Power Company, he does get his hands on a transformer. The next day, Harley's pissed about her encounter with the Joker, and realizes she can't tell Gordon about it because she'll never live it down in the department. We then get a flashback to 7 years previously when with the death what was his name? Of Mick Kelly. Throat slashed by the Joker, by the man who would become the Joker killer. Who he takes a wire coat hanger though and forces Mick Kelly's face into a smile. Looks in the mirror, sees his face covered in white paint and the blood across his mouth. Decides that's his true face. In the present, Harley realizes the truth. The killer she's been tracking for the last 5 years is the same one she's going after now. She gets an email, opens the attachment, and there's a live feed of a man in a hooked to an oxygen tank with a countdown clock. So they're trying to figure out where it's from. Of course, they, it's not the river. Water's too clean. So any place where there might be water. Gotham City, the community pool, no dice. Gotham City Gym, no dice. The next morning at Gotham Aquarium, there's a display with a black sheet over it. So it's Gotham Aquarium, check back at 10 a.m. As people file in, one of the employees is told, may as well take the drape off the tank. It's the tank with the now dead man inside. There's also a countdown clock before the bomb inside the tank goes off. The force of the explosion is enough to also blow a hole in the main tank. When the officers arrive, Harley's thinking she doesn't know how to stop the Joker. Gordon's mad that he's a step ahead of them. It's presumed that the cuffs that the victim is wearing will probably match the key that they found on Venus. And she does add that she's a consultant. She doesn't really need the job. She heads out. However, Joker is watching the security feeds from his hideout. She walks away. He says to the video screen, "See you soon, Dr. Quinn." And that is where the issue ends. And that's it for this week's roundup. As always, feel free to like, share, and subscribe. Links to my Facebook, Twitter, Patreon, and PayPal can be found in the description box down below. This is Rock and Roll Spock signing off, saying, live long and rock hard.